What is going on, Movie Meals? Movie Meals, we're back. No podcast, just reviewing. No podcast this week. Obviously, didn't drop today. No podcast this week. Took a week off to recover. Both of us not feeling 100%. But we did get to see Killers of the Flower Moon. Kyle saw it on Thursday. I saw it on Saturday. So we're here to talk about it. This 3.5-hour long movie that is causing the internet to absolutely lose their minds. There's such just monster debates around this movie. And it's nutty.
Around the runtime?
The runtime, is it good? Is Marvel better? Did they waste Brendan Fraser? Brendan Fraser was over the top. It's a whole deal.
He was perfect. And he was
exactly how Martin Scorsese wanted him to act. A legend in the field of directing. All right, let's get into it. Positives and negatives. Kyle, what were your positives of Killers of the Flower Moon?
Well, Brendan Fraser is fantastic. I'm going to start that off right there. Anyone who thinks otherwise is foolish.
Clearly, they've never seen Tarzan or George of the Jungle. That's my bad.
But in terms of Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon in general, yeah, it's a home run. It's fantastic. For Martin Scorsese, I wouldn't expect anything less. But no, that being said, this is a very well done film. I think it's a very well done in telling the history of a time that I certainly didn't know about. I'm sure many others may not have known about, in terms of the Osage Nation being able to get money when they discover oil from America. But then the corruption of white Americans, of course, leads to a lot of horrendous murders that went on and took place in order to be able to get the money from them, as well as the oil. And I thought Martin Scorsese did a really great job at not only telling that history, but also just making parallel to current events, to where we have these horrible racist acts of murder that has still been going on throughout time. But unfortunately, and he does a really great job at highlighting here, it gets swept under the rug a lot when it comes to how history is told, how the American history is told. And unfortunately, it really paints that, unfortunately, but very well done, does it paint that picture for you in this movie. On top of that, it's, of course, beautifully well shot and beautifully edited. It's frequent cinematographer and editor of Martin Scorsese's work. I'm spacing on their names, but hopefully Alex or I can look that up in a few moments just to give them their props. But the three of them do a fantastic job at making this movie look amazing, making it look fit for the theatrical experience. But also at the same time, it does a really great job at being edited to have a really natural flow to the story. And yes, a lot of people have like the headlines that are talking a lot about the 3.5-hour runtime. I think it's edited very well. I feel the runtime, but not in a negative way. Like, I am aware, as you're saying in the theater, that it's a long movie, but you are going to be so invested in this story that you will be okay with being in a movie theater that long, in my opinion. Finally, I just need to give shout outs to the cast in general. There's a lot of great character actors that have amazing moments, not just Brendan Fraser and the performance he has, but many other character actors. Like, if you go down the list, I'm sure there'll be a lot of them that you recognize and you'll go, oh, of course he'd be amazing in a Martin Scorsese movie. But of course, the stand-up performances, Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Lily Gladstone. There's going to be awards, there's probably going to be nominations heading their way. And especially that's fantastic for Lily Gladstone, who is the heartbeat of this movie for sure. And she did an incredible job. But on top of that, DiCaprio also is amazing. He plays a swine of a character. You're not going to root for this guy, but he is almost the main vessel into how we're seeing everything unfold in this point in history. So, and he does a really great job at doing that role. So I think that's about all I need to say for the positives. Alex, you want to take it over?
Yes, real quick, I forgot. Thank you, Mooma Patrons, Kimberly, Karen. Guys, you can get a hoodie like this. Comment, share us around, help us get to 2,000. We'll give it away to one lucky fan who's been a friend of the show. We've been doing this for 10 years, so help us keep growing. But anyway, I loved this movie. I thought it was fantastic. I agree with you wholeheartedly, especially about Lily Gladstone. I think she is fantastic. I think she is the best performance from an actress. If we're going to separate them as the Oscars do, I think she is the front runner by a good mile right now. She should not win supporting. She should be in lead actress where she belongs. I think this movie Her performance, like Kyle said, I think it's like the backbone of the whole movie. It's the best Robert De Niro I've seen in a long time, and I think that's saying something, especially since Robert De Niro has put out good performances, like The Joker most recently. But I think it is the best Robert De Niro I've seen in a long time. I do not think it's the best Leo. Now, everybody in the comments is like, it's... I didn't say he was bad. Leo's fantastic in the movie. Leo's always fantastic. I don't think he is the lead for the Oscar at this point. I still think Cillian Murphy brings something a little bit more nuanced to Oppenheimer, but that doesn't mean that Leo is not phenomenal. He's Oscar nominated worthy. If he won, I'd be a little disappointed, but I would understand the pick at this point. Still a lot of year left for movies, but I think he's fantastic. I think everybody in this is fantastic. I think there are some of the smaller characters that are just excellent, and I agree that I've seen a lot of stuff online with a lot of this hate. I don't want to get too into the hate. I think we'll save some of that for the podcast, but there's some conversation that I've seen Schindler's List, I've seen this, and I think that is a dangerous conversation to have, because what movies can do, and people get this confused all the time, what movies can do and what they should do is when I watch Killers of the Flower Moon, my thought process should be, holy cow, I never knew this had happened. I want to research more about it, so I go and do that. It's not a documentary. It's not supposed to be perfect and educate me. It's supposed to take liberties and entertain me. So when you compare this to Schindler's List and you say, well, I shouldn't have seen Killers of the Flower Moon, I should skip it because I've seen Schindler's List, I think you are doing a huge and dangerous disservice to not only the Jewish community that has been through too much, especially back during the Holocaust, even what we're seeing today, and the Native American community, what they have been through, what they are still going through today. I think you are comparing things that should not be compared, and you should sit down and look at these movies for what they are bringing to light. This incredible story that I didn't know was true, that is heartbreaking. It is devastating. And that's the best thing about what Martin Scorsese has done. He read a book where he said, I need to bring this to American cinema and to the world. I need to show this story and to create a piece of not only entertaining art that is telling an amazing story, but a really powerful story, I think is the right way to put it. A really powerful story that is heartbreaking, but is true and based on true events. I think so much about the Native American culture that was brought into this was great. I know he consulted a lot of the tribes. I've seen some people say he hasn't, but I've seen a lot of reports saying that he did. And I think that shows in how great the performances are, especially by some of the Native American actors who I know weren't actors before this. They were just, like, I know one scene I saw Martin Scorsese talking about was completely ad-libbed, and it's one of the most powerful scenes, I think, in the entire movie about them talking about their culture and what has happened to them. And I think that is so important that this movie has done. Yes, it is 3.5 hours. I do think you feel the runtime. I think you'd be insane not to. You feel the runtime in Endgame. If you don't say that you feel the runtime in Endgame, you're lying. You are legitimately lying. I felt the runtime in Endgame, and I still loved every second of it. And I still loved every second of this movie. What this movie should have done is had an intermission. We should bring these back for movies that needed this. I think 10 minutes, stretch your legs, go to the bathroom, gives you a little boost of energy. You sit back down, you're good to go. Trailers should start 20 minutes before the movie should start. If the movie says I'm starting at 1 o'clock, the movie should start at 1 o'clock, especially for a 3.5 hour long film.
Or don't
throw
have
an
too
intermission
many
in there,
trailers.
and there you go. Yeah, but you're never going to get studios not to promote. The theaters need that money.
Yeah,
so
but that's a different thing entirely.
But that's what should be happening here. And anyway, I think the movie's absolutely fantastic. It's one of the best Scorsese movies. I didn't love The Irishman. The Irishman's also very long. I felt the runtime in that a lot more than I felt this, because the pacing I felt struggled in that movie. The pacing in this movie is excellent. There is a moment, I think, about a 30-minute window where I do think the pacing slows down. And that's when I'm like, oh, the runtime has hit me. I feel the runtime. I checked my watch, and I was like, we probably are at the end of this movie. Oh, my God, we have an hour left. And then the movie continued, and I was invested the whole time. And look, if you don't like 3.5 hour long movies, that's fine. But this whole argument I'm seeing online, this whole debate back to Martin Scorsese's comment about Marvel and all the Marvel bros are losing their minds. I think those are completely unfair comparisons. Marvel has made movies that, yes, you can argue are better than Killers of the Flower Moon, but you can also argue that Killers of the Flower Moon are better than every Marvel movie that's ever come out, every DC movie that's ever come out. So I think we need to chillax here because there's so much amazing that is in this. I've loved this so much. I love that this is the way Scorsese has taken his movies. I love that he has gone on a silence, and I didn't love The Irishman, but I like that he has taken these routes and he is making these really intense stories I've never heard. But anyway, Kyle, you got any negatives? Or I guess you kind of already touched on them, but yeah.
Real quick, I want to give a shout out to Rodrigo Prieto, I believe is how I pronounce his last name, and Thelma Schoonmaker, who are his cinematographer and film editor. I wasn't able to say that in the positives, but
cinematographer for Barbie. Work. You kidding me?
Oh, really? Wow.
Just banger after banger. And 2 Taylor Swift music videos? Silence?
She just
get out of town.
Taste then. Yeah, right on. Yeah, I mean, this isn't for myself necessarily, but I've seen criticisms or points being made about that this movie feels like it's lacking from the Osage perspective. For myself, I wouldn't quite agree with that. It's correct in that it's obviously not coming from a main character who is Osage, for sure. But I think Scorsese does a well enough job highlighting not only the history and the culture of it, but the point of the movie is to also show the horrors that unfortunately happened to them at that point in time. And I just think all those things put together, he does a really great job at elevating them to be really well respected in that nature. I mean, then again, I'm obviously not Osage, so maybe there are others out here who disagree with that just because they are Osage themselves. That's totally fair. I'm just saying, for me, I felt like it was done very well and handled very well in this movie. But I would have liked to see the character of Molly play like Lily Gladstone, to have more time on screen and to see more of her perspective, especially in the second half of the movie. Not to say that like they lose sight of her or they don't have moments, really great moments, to where she does like get a little bit more of her perspective as she sees a lot of like her surroundings and see what's happening as the movie progresses on. But the performance is just so good, and I just loved getting these snippets and these moments of her perspective and her emotions that, I just really wanted more of that, because I just am so interested in her as not only a character, but as a person of history. And so that might be like my one critique, but I am understanding of the direction that they take, and her performance is still so well done, and it still is shown very well in this movie, that I'm willing to be forgiving of that, what I would probably call a nitpick, I suppose. But yeah, I suppose that's really the only thing that I would have to say in terms of quote-unquote negative. This movie is just very well done. Very great job by Scorsese. What about you, Al?
I think on your point there that I think it's a book adaptation. I haven't read the book. A good friend of ours has read the book. I know he really, really enjoyed the book. He told me about it years ago, literally in like 2014. He was like, I just heard Martin Scorsese and Leo are making this movie. I just finished this book. It's so good. So if the book is very, very much focusing on Leo's character, then it makes sense. He's adapting the book. He's not making a documentary. He's not doing something different. He's adapting a book.
I think
so
it's
he
from
follows
the
that storyline.
FBI's. I think it's from the FBI's perspective, if I recall, in the book.
Interesting. Well,
but I could be wrong. If anyone else wants to comment, give us a
book
bit more
I put on my
about
list.
that.
Been reading books like crazy. I got long commutes to work. Just been listening on Audible, but put it on my list. I do think the runtime's a negative. I think it's a critique. I think it is long. I'm okay with it being long. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I went into the movie knowing it was 3.5 hours. If you go in knowing it's 3.5 hours, why are you complaining? Don't go. What are you doing? You went in knowing it's going to be long.
Yeah.
If you're upset because you didn't go to the bathroom, miss part of the movie and go to the bathroom. You don't have to see it again. You can ask your friends, what did I miss? That's really my only
Whisper it, by
critique.
the way. Don't be loud.
Yeah, true. I don't think, I don't know. I'd be very curious to hear what the Osage community thinks of the movie. Definitely gonna want to look into that and know what people are saying from that community about the film, but that's about it. I will quickly say that I gave the AMC a second chance because that's what I do. I'm a second chance kind of guy. I gave him a second chance. It was one bad theater I saw Taylor Swift in, and it was the most disgusting and horrible IMAX I've ever been to in my life. The IMAX was the exact same theater. I was only uncomfortable in that movie because the chairs were from 1982, and I will never go back to that AMC in my life. I thought maybe your IMAX was your cell. You have an IMAX. I could hear Taylor Swift in that when I saw the concert in the small bad theater, and I was like, okay, that's got to be the cell, right? I have shitty other theaters. This is my cell. I'm going to have a really amazing IMAX, and you didn't. It was disgusting and horrible, and I will never go back there again. And I know there's another AMC IMAX literally 10 minutes away from that spot that had a Barnes & Noble next to it. So that already sounds better to me. So, yeah. AMC, you stink, and Cinemark continues to be the only really great one. I'm going to be honest. Cinemark is the king. It was worse than any Regal theater I've ever been in. It was the worst theater I have ever been in my entire life, and the fact that they called it an IMAX, was the screen big? Sure. Was the sound too loud? Yes, because sound bounces off of tile better than carpet, and it was so much extra loud because there was no carpet anywhere, and it was cold and disgusting and horrible. And AMC, you suck. Go see Killers of the Flower Moon. It's a great time.
Just not at that theater.
Anything else? Yeah, no, never go to that theater ever again. Anything else, Kyle?
Well, Martin Scorsese only directs gangster movies, and this is just another case of him directing another gangster movie. So Marvel reigns supreme.
It's in the genre. It's still considered a gangster movie.
I'm being totally sarcastic. I would not classify this as a gangster movie.
DC is supreme for you.
What was that?
DC 100% is how you feel. You feel DC's better.
DC, Scorsese, Marvel.
This has gangster elements. I think to say it's not a gangster film is wrong. It definitely has gangster elements. It's a subgenre of the film, I would definitely say.
All right, fine. So I guess my joke falls flat, but go see this movie anyway. It's fantastic. The subject matter is much more important than calling it 100%. A gangster movie. It's really good.
And it's dangerous to be comparing it to other tragedies. Just go see it and enjoy this movie. And if you don't want to see a 3.5 hour long movie, don't go see it. Anyway, as always, thank you to Movie Meal patrons. Help us out. Get a hoodie. And as always, thanks for watching, Mom.
See you guys.